My sister posted, "Finally bought my dream home," with photos of my house. I commented, "Congrats." She had no idea I'd never transferred the deed. When she tried to refinance and the bank said, "Ma'am, you're not the owner," she called panicked. I said, "Dreams come true when you ask permission," and hung up. 83 missed calls from mom. My sister posted the photos at 8:17 on a Tuesday morning. There were 12 of them. The white brick exterior, the black framed windows, the kitchen with the marble island, the wide staircase I had spent 3 weekends sanding and staining myself, the backyard with the old maple tree and the stone patio I had paid to repair after the previous owner let the roots crack it in half. The caption read, "Finally bought my dream home. Hard work, faith, and never giving up. So proud of everything we've built. New chapter." Below it were 300 likes, dozens of champagne glass emojis, and comments from people congratulating my sister Vanessa on becoming a homeowner. My mother wrote, "No one deserves this more than you, sweetheart." My father added, "Proud of my little girl." Vanessa's husband Eric commented, "We did it, babe." I stared at the screen from my desk, surrounded by audit reports, bank reconciliations, and a half-finished cup of coffee. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because the house and those photographs belonged to me. My name was the only name on the deed. Vanessa had never paid a down payment. She had never applied for a mortgage. She had never paid the property taxes, the insurance, or the repair bills. She had not bought anything. I had. So I clicked the comment box and typed one word, "Congratulations!" Then I returned to work. Vanessa replied with a red heart. She had no idea that I had never transferred the deed. She would find out 6 weeks later, when she walked into a bank wearing a cream-colored suit, carrying plans for a swimming pool and a luxury kitchen renovation, and asked for a cash-out refinance on a house she did not own. The loan officer checked the county records. Then he looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you're not the owner." At 2:43 that afternoon, my phone began ringing. By 6 o'clock, I had 83 missed calls from my mother. But to understand why I let every one of them go unanswered, you need to understand how my family had treated me long before Vanessa stole my house for Instagram. My name is Caleb Mercer. I'm 36 and I work as a forensic auditor. That means companies usually call me when something has gone wrong. Sometimes money is missing. Sometimes numbers have been manipulated. Sometimes a trusted employee has created a fake vendor and quietly paid himself for years. People think auditing is about spreadsheets. It isn't. It is about patterns. A number does not have to scream to tell you something is wrong. Sometimes it whispers. A repeated payment. A date that does not line up. An expense with no receipt. A person who becomes defensive when you ask a simple question. My job taught me that entitlement and fraud often begin the same way. Someone takes a little. No one stops them, so they take more. My family had been doing that to me for most of my adult life. Vanessa was 3 years younger than me and had always been the favorite. She was beautiful, charming, and gifted at making ordinary events sound like personal tragedies. When she failed a class in college, the professor was jealous. When she lost a job, her manager was threatened by her confidence. When her first engagement ended, her fiancé was emotionally unavailable. When her credit cards were maxed out, the cost of living was unfair. Nothing was ever Vanessa's fault. My parents encouraged it. "She has a sensitive heart," Mom would say whenever Vanessa insulted someone. "She just dreams big," Dad would explain whenever she spent money she did not have. I was different. I was practical, quiet, careful. At 22, I graduated with a degree in accounting and took the first stable job I could find. At 26, I became a certified fraud examiner. At 30, I bought a modest condo and paid extra toward the mortgage every month. My parents did not call that discipline. They called it boring. "You only live once," Vanessa liked to tell me while carrying a handbag that cost more than her monthly rent. "You also only retire once," I would answer. She always rolled her eyes. The house entered our lives after Vanessa and Eric were nearly evicted from their apartment. Eric worked in sales. His income was inconsistent, but he was not lazy. He simply made the mistake of letting Vanessa manage their finances. She did not manage them, she hid them. One evening, Mom called me crying. "Caleb, they're going to be homeless." I was standing in a grocery store holding a carton of eggs. "Who?" "Your sister and Eric. Their landlord gave them 30 days. I closed my eyes. "How far behind are they?" There was a pause. 3 months. "And what happened to the money?" Vanessa said there were unexpected expenses. That phrase meant nothing. Unexpected expenses could mean a medical emergency. With Vanessa, it could also mean a trip to Miami. I asked to see their bank statements. Mom gasped as if I had demanded Vanessa's medical records. She's your sister, not one of your suspects. I'm not giving her thousands of dollars without knowing where the money went. You always make everything so cold. And Vanessa always makes everything urgent. Mom hung up. An hour later, Vanessa called. She was sobbing so hard that I could barely understand her. Eric doesn't know, she whispered. Doesn't know what? How bad it is. That got my attention. We met the next morning at a coffee shop. Vanessa arrived wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying a designer purse. I noticed the purse immediately. People in my profession notice contradictions. She slid her phone across the table. On the screen was a notice from the landlord demanding $7,800 in unpaid rent and fees. How did this happen? I asked. She stared at her untouched coffee. I thought Eric's commission check would be bigger. That doesn't explain 3 missed payments. I had expenses. What expenses? Life, Caleb. I waited. Silence makes dishonest people uncomfortable. Finally, she removed her sunglasses. I bought some things. How much? I don't know. You know. Her mouth tightened. 12,000. I leaned back. You spent $12,000 while not paying rent? It wasn't all shopping. What else? A trip? What trip? Miami. The Miami trip had appeared all over her social media. Rooftop dinners, a private cabana, champagne in the hotel room. She had captioned one photo, "Protect your peace." Apparently, she had protected it from rent. You need to tell Eric, I said. He'll leave me. That is not a reason to lie to him. Please, Caleb, just help us get through this month. I refused to hand her cash. Instead, I paid the landlord directly and told Eric everything. He did not leave her. He was furious, but he stayed. My parents accused me of humiliating Vanessa. You could have solved it quietly, Dad said. She was hiding $12,000 in spending from her husband. That's between them. It became my business when she asked me to pay the consequences. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 months later, the house came up for sale. It was a 4-bedroom property in a quiet neighborhood outside the city. The previous owner had died, and his children wanted a quick sale. The house needed cosmetic work, but the structure was solid. I had been searching for an investment property, and the numbers made sense. I purchased it through a mortgage in my name. My original plan was to renovate it, rent it for several years, and eventually sell it. When Vanessa saw the house, she fell in love. Oh my God, she whispered as she walked through the front door. This is exactly what I've always wanted. She moved from room to room, already assigning purposes. This could be my office. That could be a guest room. We could put a pool outside. Caleb, look at this kitchen. It needs work. It has character. 2 days later, Mom invited me to dinner. Vanessa and Eric were there. I knew immediately that I had walked into an ambush. Mom had prepared my favorite meal. Dad poured me a drink. Vanessa was unusually quiet. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We've been thinking about the house. I've already bought it. We know, Mom said, and we are so proud of you. I waited for the request. It came 30 seconds later. What if Vanessa and Eric rented it from you? Mom asked. Vanessa reached across the table. It would give us a chance to start over. Eric looked uncomfortable. We would pay you every month, he said. A real payment, not a favor. I should have said no. Instead, I created an arrangement. They would move into the house under a written lease. Their monthly payment would cover the mortgage, insurance, and property taxes, with a small additional amount credited toward a future purchase. After 24 consecutive on-time payments, they could apply to buy the property from me. If they qualified for financing, I would credit part of what they had paid toward the sale price. I explained every term. I printed the agreement. Eric read it carefully. Vanessa barely looked at it before signing. So after 2 years, it's ours? She asked. After 2 years of on-time payments, you can begin the purchase process. That's what I said. No, it isn't. She smiled. You're such an auditor. At first, the arrangement worked. For 6 months, every payment arrived on time. Eric repaired the fence. I replaced the furnace. Vanessa painted the living room a soft white and posted before and after photos online without mentioning that I owned the property. I did not care. Then the late payments began. 3 days late, then 8, then 2 weeks. Each time, Vanessa had a reason. Eric's commission was delayed. Their car needed repairs. The bank made an error. A client had not paid. I sent reminders. Eric apologized. Vanessa complained that I was treating them like tenants. You are tenants, I said. We're family. Family can also follow contracts. By the end of the first year, they had missed 2 payments completely. I covered everything because the mortgage was in my name. When I confronted Vanessa, she cried. You know we're trying. I know you posted photos from a resort last weekend. That was for our anniversary. You owe me $4,600. Why do you always reduce life to numbers? Because the bank does. Mom called me 10 minutes later. Vanessa says you threatened to throw them onto the street. I asked her to pay what she owes. You own a condo and a house. Why are you acting like you're struggling? Because ownership does not make mortgage payments disappear. You can afford to be patient. That sentence became the family's favorite weapon. You can afford it. You can afford to help. You can afford to wait. You can afford to forgive. No one ever asked what their choices were costing me. During the second year, the payments became less reliable. Eric believed Vanessa was sending them. Vanessa told him I had agreed to be flexible. I had agreed to no such thing. She also began making changes to the house without permission. She replaced light fixtures, removed a wall of built-in shelves, ordered custom cabinets, hired a landscaper to tear out shrubs I had planned to keep. When I objected, she became offended. We're improving your property. With money you claim you don't have? It's our home, Caleb. It is the home you are renting. Her eyes hardened. You really love reminding me of that. I have to remind you because you keep pretending otherwise. The 24-month deadline came and went. They were 11 payments short of meeting the agreement. I sent both of them a formal summary. It listed every payment, every late fee I had waived, every repair I had covered, and the amount still owed. Eric called me immediately. This can't be right. It is. I gave Vanessa the money every month. I felt the same cold clarity I feel during an audit when an account finally explains itself. Then you need to ask Vanessa where it went. They had a terrible fight. Eric moved into a hotel for a week, but once again he returned. Vanessa promised to fix everything. My parents begged me not to make the situation worse. I offered them a new 12-month lease with strict payment terms. I removed the future purchase credit because they had failed the original agreement. Vanessa signed it without speaking to me. For a while, she stopped posting pictures of the house. Then came her 33rd birthday. She threw a party in the backyard, a rented bar, a caterer, gold balloons, a photographer. I was not invited. I saw the pictures online. One showed Vanessa standing on the front steps with Mom and Dad. The caption read, "Everything I dreamed of, built with the people who believed in me." That night I received a text from Dad. "Your sister says you're creating problems about the house again. You need to let go of control." I replied, "She owes me $18,400. He did not answer. The next morning, Vanessa posted the announcement, "Finally bought my dream home." She did not say she hoped to buy it. She did not say she was renting it. She told hundreds of people that the house was hers. My mother publicly confirmed the lie. My father praised her for an accomplishment she had not achieved. And I wrote, "Congratulations." I did not expose her. I did not argue. I simply waited. Auditors understand that people who invent their own reality eventually try to use it as collateral. 6 weeks later, Vanessa scheduled an appointment at First County Bank. I learned the details afterward from Eric. Vanessa had accumulated nearly $30,000 in credit card debt. She wanted to refinance the house, take cash out, pay off the cards, install a pool, and renovate the kitchen. She told the loan officer that the house had been transferred to her privately by a family member. The loan officer requested identification, income records, insurance information, and proof of ownership. Vanessa provided everything except the deed. She assumed it would be a minor issue. The bank ran a title search. The county records showed one owner, Caleb Mercer. According to Eric, the loan officer turned his monitor slightly away from her and said, "Ma'am, you're not the owner of this property." Vanessa laughed. "There must be a delay in the records. The deed was recorded almost 3 years ago. My brother transferred it to us. There is no recorded transfer. He promised it was ours. A promise is not ownership." That was when she called me. I was in a conference room interviewing a payroll manager about suspicious expense reimbursements. My phone vibrated once, then again, then continuously. I silenced it. When the interview ended, I saw 27 missed calls from Vanessa. There were 6 from Eric, 9 from Dad, 31 from Mom. The calls continued while I drove home. At 83 missed calls from Mom, I finally answered Vanessa. She was crying, not soft tears, panicked, breathless sobs. "What did you do?" she demanded. I placed the phone on speaker and set it on my kitchen counter. "To what?" "The house." "What about it?" "You never transferred the deed." "That's correct." "You said this house was ours." "No, I said you could purchase it after meeting the conditions in our agreement." "We've lived here for almost 3 years." "Yes." "We paid for it." "You paid less than 60% of the required rent." "That money was supposed to count toward ownership." "Only if you made 24 consecutive on-time payments. You did not. You tricked me." I opened the folder on my laptop containing every signed agreement. "You signed the lease." "No one reads those things." "I do." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then she lowered her voice. "Caleb, please. The bank says they can't approve anything until the deed is in our names." "That makes sense." "I need you to transfer it today." "No." "You don't understand. We already paid application fees. The contractor is ready to start. I promised Eric we could clear the debt." "What debt?" She stopped crying. "What?" "What debt, Vanessa?" "It's none of your business. You are asking me to give you a house so you can borrow money against it. It is very much my business. I'm not asking you to give me anything. It's already mine." "No, it isn't." Her breathing became sharp. "You commented, 'Congratulations.' I was congratulating you on your post. You knew what I meant. I knew you were lying." She screamed my name. I let the sound fade. Then I said the sentence I had been holding since the morning of her post. "Dreams come true when you ask permission." And I hung up. Mom called immediately, then Dad, then Eric, then Vanessa again. I turned off my phone. The next evening, my parents arrived at my condo without warning. Mom pushed past me before I invited her inside. "How could you humiliate your sister like that?" Dad followed, carrying the expression he used whenever he wanted to pretend anger was authority. "You need to fix this." I closed the door. "Fix what?" "Transfer the house," Mom said. "No." She stared at me. "You are not keeping your sister's home from her. It is my property. It is her home. She lives there under a lease." Dad pointed toward my kitchen table. "Sit down. We're going to discuss this like adults." "I'm already standing in my own home like an adult." His face reddened. "You think because you make more money than everyone else you can control us? This has nothing to do with control." "You've always been jealous of Vanessa," Mom said. That almost made me laugh. "Jealous of what?" "She has a husband, friends, a life. You only have work and your precious numbers." The words landed harder than I expected, not because they were true, because they revealed what she believed. Every loan I had made, every emergency I had solved, every family bill I had quietly paid, none of it counted as a life. To my mother, I was not a son. I was an available balance. I walked into my office and returned with a thick black binder. I placed it on the table. "What is that?" Dad asked. "The house." Inside were mortgage statements, property tax bills, insurance payments, repair invoices, lease agreements, bank records, text messages, and a complete payment history. I opened to the summary page. Purchase price, $412,000. Down payment, $82,400, paid by me. Closing costs, $11,900, paid by me. Renovations before they moved in, $37,000, paid by me. Mom looked away. I continued. Mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, and repairs over 34 months total $96,000. Vanessa and Eric paid $58,000. They also owe $18,400 in missed rent. Dad slapped the binder shut. This is family, not an audit. That's the problem. You expected me not to keep records. We expected you to have a heart, Mom said. I had one. That is why they moved into a house they could never qualify to buy. They raised the value, Dad argued. I raised the value before they moved in. Vanessa damaged the original cabinets, removed built-ins without permission, and hired contractors she did not pay. Mom's eyes widened. What contractors? I reopened the binder and showed her 3 notices. A cabinet company, a landscaper, a pool design consultant. Each had contacted me after discovering I was the legal owner. Vanessa had signed preliminary agreements while representing herself as the owner of the property. She has also allowed the homeowner's insurance to lapse twice, I said. I reinstated it. She has hidden financial information from Eric and attempted to refinance property that does not belong to her. She made a mistake, Mom whispered. No, she created a system. Dad stood. What do you want? An apology? Fine, we're sorry. Now transfer the house. I am not transferring it. What are you going to do? Evict your own sister? I met his eyes. If she continues violating the lease, yes. Mom began to cry. You would put her on the street? No, I would require 2 employed adults to find housing they can afford. What about the family? I looked at the binder between us. What about me? Neither of them answered. They left after threatening to cut me out of their lives. It was the 3rd time Dad had made that threat in 5 years. The first 2 times, I had panicked and apologized. This time, I locked the door behind them and slept peacefully. 3 days later, Eric asked to meet me alone. He looked exhausted when he entered my office. His shirt was wrinkled and there were dark circles beneath his eyes. I saw the agreement, he said. You signed it. I know, but Vanessa told me you had changed it later. I did not. She said the missed payments didn't matter because you decided to give us the house. I never said that. He covered his face with both hands. I've been giving her the money, Caleb. I believe you. Then where did it go? That is a question for your wife. He looked up slowly. Do you know? I know enough. I slid a spreadsheet across the desk. Vanessa and I had maintained accounts at the same local bank when we were younger. Years ago, when she first asked for financial help, she had given me access to a shared household account so I could pay the landlord directly. She had forgotten that the account remained visible to me. I had not invaded her private accounts. I had reviewed only the account used for house payments. Each month, Eric transferred money into it. Within days, Vanessa moved much of it elsewhere. Some transfers went to credit cards. Others went to luxury retailers, beauty clinics, travel companies, and a social media marketing agency. She paid an agency? Eric asked. $400 a month. For what? According to the payment descriptions, personal brand consulting. He stared at the spreadsheet. She told me the mortgage payment was $2,800. The rent was $2,300. His face drained of color. She kept $500 every month? Sometimes more. He turned to the final page. There was the refinance application fee. There was a deposit to a pool contractor. There was a payment to a company that rented luxury furniture for photo shoots. Eric's voice cracked. Was the furniture in the pictures rented? Some of it. He laughed once, bitterly. I thought she bought that sofa. We sat in silence. Finally, he asked,
What happens now? That depends on you. Are you evicting us? I am terminating the current lease. I'll offer you a new one at market rent, but only if payments come directly from you and the unauthorized renovations stop. And Vanessa? She can live there if she follows the lease. He nodded slowly. She won't. He was right. Vanessa refused the new agreement. Instead, she called an emergency family dinner and demanded that everyone attend.
I went because I wanted the argument to happen once, in a room, with witnesses. Vanessa sat at my parents' dining table wearing black as if she were attending a funeral. Mom sat beside her, holding her hand. Dad remained at the head of the table. Eric sat across from them. I took the final chair and placed the black binder in front of me. Vanessa's eyes fixed on it. You brought evidence against your own sister? I brought records. Same thing to you. Dad raised a hand. Caleb, we're here to find a compromise. Vanessa leaned forward. The compromise is simple. Transfer the deed and I'll forgive you. Eric closed his eyes. I looked at her. Forgive me for what? For lying, for letting us believe we own the house, for publicly humiliating me. I never told you that you owned it. You let me build my life there. I let you rent it below market value. You knew it was my dream home. Wanting something does not make it yours. She slammed both palms on the table. You don't even need it. There it was, the family's entire moral system in one sentence. If Caleb has something and Vanessa wants it, Vanessa deserves it. Mom squeezed her hand. She has a point. You already have your condo. I turned to Mom. You have 2 cars. Can I take one? That's different. You have retirement savings. Vanessa has debt. Should you transfer your savings to her? Don't be ridiculous. Why is my property the only thing this family considers communal? Dad's mouth tightened. Because you can afford it. No, because I allowed you to believe I would always surrender. Vanessa stood so quickly that her chair scraped across the floor. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? You wanted me to fail. I wanted you to pay rent. You wanted to feel superior. I wanted you to tell the truth. She pointed at Eric. He knew the house wasn't technically ours. Eric looked up. No, I didn't. You signed the papers. I signed a rent-to-purchase agreement. You told me Caleb later agreed to transfer it. Vanessa's expression changed, only slightly, but I saw it. So did Eric. You lied to me, he said. I simplified things. You stole the rent money. I borrowed some of it. You told me our payment increased. We had expenses. You spent it on trips and social media. Those things helped my business. What business? He shouted. The room went silent. Vanessa looked toward Mom for help. Mom responded automatically. She was trying to build something for herself. Eric pushed his chair back. With my money, in someone else's house, while telling me we were building equity. Vanessa began crying. You're all attacking me. No, I said. You are finally hearing the same facts from more than one person. Dad pointed at me. That's enough. It isn't. I opened the binder and removed 3 documents. The first was the termination notice. The second was the offer for a new lease. The third was an agreement to repay the unpaid balance over 2 years. I placed them in front of Vanessa. You have 30 days to choose. Sign the new lease and repayment plan, or move out. She stared at the papers. You wouldn't. I already have. Mom stood. I will never forgive you. That is your choice. You are destroying this family over money. No. Money revealed what this family was willing to do to me. Vanessa tore the new lease in half. There. That's my answer. Eric looked at the pieces on the floor. Then he removed his wedding ring. This is mine. He set it on the table. Vanessa stopped crying. What are you doing? I'm done. She stared at him as if he had spoken another language. You can't leave me now. I should have left after Miami. Mom gasped. Dad looked confused. I was not. Some patterns repeat until someone finally refuses to participate. Eric stood and walked out. Vanessa ran after him. Mom turned on me. Look what you've done. I closed the binder. For once, I know exactly what I've done. Vanessa moved out 28 days later. She did not leave quietly. She scratched the hardwood floor while dragging furniture. She removed fixtures that belonged to the house. She left bags of garbage in the garage and wrote "thief" across the kitchen wall in red paint. Unfortunately for her, I had documented the property before she moved in. I also had insurance, and photographs, and signed agreements. She had spent years calling me obsessive for keeping records. Those records recovered almost every dollar of the damage deposit and supported my claim for the remaining repairs. My parents stopped speaking to me, at least officially. Unofficially, Mom continued sending long messages. Some were angry, some were desperate. Some quoted Bible verses about forgiveness. None contained the words, "We were wrong." Dad called twice. Both times he told me I had made my point and needed to help Vanessa again. I declined. Eric filed for divorce and rented a small apartment near his office. He paid half of the outstanding house balance because he said he had signed the lease and wanted to take responsibility for his part. I told him he did not have to cover Vanessa's missing payments. I know, he said. That's why I'm doing it. 6 months later, I sold the house. The market had improved, and despite the damage, I made a solid profit. At closing, the attorney slid the final documents toward me. For a moment, I remembered Vanessa standing on the front steps beneath gold balloons, smiling beside a house she had decided belonged to her. I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt tired. Victory is not always loud. Sometimes it is simply the end of carrying something that should never have been yours. I used part of the profit to pay off my condo. I invested the rest. Then I took my first real vacation in 7 years. Not a work trip with one free afternoon. Not a family emergency disguised as travel. A vacation. I went to Portugal alone and spent 10 days walking unfamiliar streets, eating by the ocean, and ignoring my phone. On the final evening, I sat outside a small restaurant as the sun disappeared beyond the water. A message arrived from an unknown number. It was Vanessa. I almost deleted it. Then I read it. I got a job. A real one. I'm renting a 1-bedroom apartment. Mom says you ruined my life, but I think maybe I ruined it first. I'm still angry. I don't know how to forgive you. I don't know how to forgive myself either. I read the message twice. Then another appeared. I told everyone the house was mine because I wanted them to think I had accomplished something. After a while, I started believing it. There was no apology, not yet, but for the first time in her life, there was accountability. I replied with one sentence. The truth is a better foundation than a deed. She did not answer. When I returned home, there were no flowers, no dramatic family reunion, and no sudden transformation. Mom still believed I had been too harsh. Dad still thought money should have solved everything. Vanessa still had debt and a divorce to face. But she was paying her own rent. Eric was rebuilding his life, and I was no longer the family bank, emergency fund, landlord, repairman, and silent scapegoat. 3 months later, Vanessa sent me a photograph. It showed a small living room with secondhand furniture, a cheap lamp, and cardboard boxes stacked against the wall. The caption read, "It isn't my dream home, but it's mine to pay for." This time I believed her. I typed, "Congratulations," and this time I meant it. For years I thought saying no would make me cruel. My family had taught me that love meant rescuing people from every consequence, even when they lied, manipulated, or stole. But love without boundaries is not always love. Sometimes it is permission. Permission to take, permission to deceive, permission to confuse generosity with ownership. Vanessa believed the house belonged to her because everyone around her had spent years teaching her that wanting something was the same as deserving it. I helped teach her that too. Every time I covered a mispayment, forgave a lie, or accepted disrespect to keep the peace, I helped build the fantasy she eventually tried to refinance. I will not make that mistake again. I do not feel guilty for keeping the deed. I do not feel guilty for enforcing the lease, and I do not feel guilty for hanging up while my mother's calls filled the screen. The house was never the most valuable thing I protected. It was my right to stop being used, my right to ask questions, my right to require honesty, my right to say that family does not get to claim whatever I have simply because I worked hard enough to obtain it. Dreams can come true, but not through lies, not through entitlement, and certainly not through taking someone else's home, posting photographs online, and hoping the paperwork will surrender to the story. Paperwork does not care about captions. Banks do not accept family mythology as collateral, and deeds do not transfer themselves. Sometimes the truth waits quietly in a county office, beneath a single name, until someone finally asks who really owns the house. That name was mine, Caleb Mercer.